Okay. So, again, welcome to SIP, our Spiritual Interactive Panel, September 10th. This month, we're doing Gut Soul. For those of you who missed it, last month we did Psychic or Psychotic. And if you are on our New Hampshire Metaphysical .com mailing list, then you will have an option to see last month's recording of it. And we'll be releasing this recording at some point as well. Again, welcome. And if you would like to keep track of all of the upcoming spiritual panels and the other events through New Hampshire Metaphysical, then you can go to newhampshiremetaphysical.com or our New Hampshire Metaphysical Facebook page, like our page, follow us, and you can sign up on our mailing list to get, twice a month we send out a newsletter letting you know what's going on through New Hampshire Metaphysical. And there is a link in the chat box, so you can just click that link by our ever efficient office goddess, Mindy, who today is pretending to be Elmer, if you see the name pop up on the screen. We do have some events coming up, and I do want to let you know that everybody here is involved as a practitioner with New Hampshire Metaphysical that's going to be speaking today. And you can go and find out about Nancy Smith, Ginger Hendry, Ashley Olston, all on New Hampshire Metaphysical. You can go to the practitioner directory and find out lots more information about them. And if you like what they say, or you want to do any kind of follow-up, you can go there to do that. We also have coming up a digital and in-person fair. The digital and in-person fair will be the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, with the in-person being the 23rd, the middle day Saturday, and that is in Nashua, New Hampshire at Positive Street Art on Bridge Street. Again, all this information you can find on our Facebook page or on our website. For those of you who don't know, I'm Kevin Ross Emery, Inspirational Catalyst, and your host for the SIP series. Besides the in-person fair in Nashua, right after the in-person fair, we're doing an event called Play Date with Spirit. Play Date with Spirit is 6:30 to 9:30. And Nancy, Raina Wilson, and Nancy Smith, Raina Wilson, and myself will be playing with you and with Spirit and bringing you a unique, one-of-a-kind of experience that is not to be missed. It's going to have art and drumming and dance and I don't know, whatever, because it's a play date. And if you overly organize it, it's no longer play. So it's a play date. So come play with us. Again, that is September 23rd, and that's at this Positive Street Arts after the in-person psychic fair. We also have coming up in October a psychic message circle. If you've never done one, you can get more information as well by clicking through things on our Facebook page or going to our website, where 4 psychics give you 4 readings in mini groups during the night, so that it's kind of like having a mini psychic party. And some of the people you see here today are actually regulars at our party. As we do the psychic message circle and give you an option to get and give you the opportunity to get 4 readings from 4 different psychics in the same evening. So we also have a monthly book club, which is done by our very own Ashley Olstein, who is on our panel today. And when it is Ashley's turn to speak, we will let her take a second or a minute and just say what her upcoming book is. But again, you can go and find out all that information. So the way this is going to go is each of us are going to speak for 10 minutes on the topic of the gut soul, or what is the soul. After each of us has spoken, and after all of us have spoken, I should say, pardon me. After all of us have spoken, we then open it up for questions. And again, you can, if you don't want to have your name, and if you have a face that's showing, have your face show up in our recording, you can just chat, ask the question, and either Mindy or I will be repeating your questions, and then we're going to kick it around. One of the things I want to make very clear is New Hampshire Metaphysical is sponsoring this and doing it for free to actually help offer information and insight for the spiritually curious. we've had a lot of spiritual trauma that's been happening in the world, and people who have become really disenchanted with their traditional teachings or their upbringings, people who have also had bad experiences in not only traditional but alternative community. So what we want to do is give you 4 different perspectives on any number of topics, let you ask questions, and just see what resonates to you. We may not all agree with each other. In fact, I'm sure we're not all going to agree with each other. Last month, we didn't all agree with each other. We had some different takes. And it's about what resonates to you. And this is what I want you to best hold on to. If it resonates to you, take it. If it kind of like, it just doesn't speak to me, well, then, okay, I'm sure something did. But if one thing didn't, walk away from it. If it really irritated you, if you got in high dungeons over something that I or one of the other people said, then you really need to look at it, because we've hit something that is an unresolved issue. Because when you have lots of anger or indignation or energy, it's a sign that somewhere under all of that is a wound that probably really needs to be looked at and healed so you can be living your best life. So we want to do that. Again, Nancy may say one thing, Ginger may say another thing, Ashley will say a third thing, I'll say a fourth thing, and you go, well, you know, you guys are saying some different things. Good. Critical thinking skills. Yay. See what feels correct to you. And we may be saying the same thing, just with different words. And that happens as well. I do want to do a quick coming up. We have next month on 10/8, Do Heaven and Hell Exist? Our panelists are Raina Wilson, Lori Powers Otto, and Reverend Robert Menard. 11/12, Have We Lived Before? Will We Live Again? We have Nancy Smith, who's with us today, returning. We have Raina Wilson, and we have Ashley Oldstein returning. And just to put this out there, I host all of these events, so you're going to get sick of my face, but it's okay. That puts you in the majority of people who get sick of my face. And on 12/10, What About Angels? And What About Angels? We have Nancy Smith, Marie Cartageneva, and Reverend Robert Menard. I missed on Have We Lived Before? Have We Lived Again? We have Stacy Smith. I knew I was missing one. Sorry. Again, that's 11/12. All of that information is available. I'm going to start with my panel this month. Last month I started, but I'm going to start with my panel this month. And we're going to kick it off with Ginger Hendry. Ginger.
Hey, so thank you again for inviting me. And I'm really glad to talk about this topic because it means so much to me, because I do Akashic record work as well as animal communication and mediumship and whatnot. And so it's so funny. Every time, I hadn't realized this until I got ready for this panel, but every time I hear the word soul, I see a picture in my mind. And I grew up Catholic and went to Catholic parochial school. And in my religion book, there was always a picture, the same picture of a soul. And that literally still comes to me. So anyway, what is a soul? We all have a soul. We all are a soul. I believe the soul is the essence of the being. So we may come in and out of bodies over our, reincarnation over and over multiple lifetimes, but it is the same soul, the same essence. Also believe that there is a collective soul, and that all of us are pieces or part or all, depending on how you look at it, of the collective. My personal belief is that we choose to come into a life. We choose whether we call them a soul, soul family or soul contracts, or we come in with a group and we arrange sort of ahead of time what we may want to experience in this lifetime to move us forward so that we evolve. And the hope, the thought, the intent is that we all do that and we all move the collective forward as well. But however, when we come into this life, we are now human and we make human choices based on a lot of different things. And so we don't always reach that goal, in which case we hope that maybe the next time that we come into life that we will. Now, I do believe that we are individuated souls, and we have the ability, because of free will, to maybe take a different turn when we come into this life. So let's say we make a plan for who our parents may be, our siblings, family, friends, and whatnot. And we all expect to be the best us we can be so that we can uplift not just ourselves and evolve ourselves, but everybody else. But if we have certain things that happen to us, trauma, excuse me, somebody else's free will, making maybe not the best choice in our soul's best interest, that we can become blocked, or we can become not really utilizing or experiencing the full soul that we are. So in my Akashic record work, I find that if I go back and look at somebody in a past life, for some reason, there might be a block based on something that that person has chosen that really wasn't in their soul's best interest, and they may be repeating that in this lifetime, and maybe in this lifetime they have better success. They're stronger. They may be wiser. They may make decisions in a different way that they're able to move that soul forward. So I do think we come in hoping to experience certain lessons, hoping to challenges. I've had people, when I've done this kind of work, come in and, maybe they have an addiction in the family. And if we look at past lives, they may have been the person who was addicted in a past life, and they want to see the sort of the other side of it and help that person come through. So there's a very, from my belief, a very interactive plan that we engage with before we come in to this life and move ourselves forward. So what else can I say? They say, like, where is the soul? What is the soul? When I picture the soul, that little picture from my catechism book, I find the soul, for me, feels like in my heart. I think there are different beliefs on where the soul resides. Don't think it makes a difference at all. It's an energy, it's an essence. But that's where I feel it the most for myself. Man, I don't know. I don't know how long I've been speaking. I could go on forever. Have I hit close to 10 minutes? Oh, I've only hit 5 minutes? Oh, yep. Man, okay. So I think that the important thing to recognize and realize in this lifetime, and it takes us a long time to recognize this, is number one, nothing lasts forever. Nothing, number two, nothing that we do can't be changed or worked on or chipped away at or whatever. Nothing is concrete. So no matter what we do, the choices that we make, the energy that we give, if we want to make a change because things are not working for us, we are always able to do that. Our soul is very powerful. As humans, we don't always feel powerful. We may find ourselves in situations where we feel stuck, or we feel taken advantage of, or those kinds of things. But really, when you can connect to your soul and really feel what that is and what the soul is moving you forward, then you can do that, because the power is within us all. Oh, I was just going to say something about that too. I feel like for the soul piece, if you are feeling driven towards something, let's say, and you keep ignoring it, you're going to get pulled in that direction. I have not found that's generally in my mind. I find that's my soul. My soul wants me to take this path. It's going to keep coming up and coming up. And so for me, I think the best thing that I've been able to do in this work is to take a look inside, see what it is that's driving me, understand where my ego is and where my soul is, and obviously try to lean more into what's driving me at soul level. I think in this work, for me, working with people and helping people sort of uncover those blocks, whether it's through animals, which a good part of my work is, or Akashic record work, mediumship, whatever it is, to help people not be stuck, to recognize their strength, their power from a soul level is probably the most rewarding thing that I get out of working with somebody when they realize I can make that choice. That's who I am. I'm not stuck by a belief. I believe in myself. I believe in my soul. And that's how I want to move forward. So I feel like I'm rambling. So I'll just stop here because I can go in another big circle. And I'll turn it over to Kevin, whoever is the next person. Is that okay?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. That's Ginger Hendry. Again, you can find out more about Ginger if you come to NewHampshireMetaphysical.com. Look her up on our practitioner directory, Akashic Records, past lives, animal communication. So I want to thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nancy Smith. Nance, you're up.
Thank you. This is very cool to be here. Thank you for making this happen, Kevin. I want to talk about the soul again, just like Ginger said, from the Akashic records point of view, from the Akashic realm point of view. I am an Akashic practitioner as well as a medium and a spirit artist. I teach, I write, and I mentor. And I have a book, Divine Love Affair, an Akashic Journey, which talks a lot about the soul. And Ginger and I spent a lot of time talking about the soul as well. How I perceive the soul, how I organize it, the organizing principles in me for soul. It's kind of like a creation story where there was source, there was energy, there was divine love and infinite intelligence, and it was alone. And it wanted to experience itself. So it made lots of little souls. And the souls were identical to the creator and had the same desires, had the same experiences. And the souls wanted to experience themselves. So they created lots of little spirits, and that's us. And the soul resides partly in it's our higher self, partly in with source and partly in with us. And our soul did have a plan for what we were going to do. We have lots of helpers, what our soul wanted to experience in our life. So our soul has created us to experience itself. Our soul has its own awareness, its own consciousness. We have our own awareness and our own consciousness. And we can graduate to become a soul if we want to become a soul. We are part of a soul, but we also are very individual. And in a spiritualist tradition, because of mediumship and a reverend of spiritualist church, they have a hard time with past lives. And I feel that they have a hard time with past lives because they want to prove the continuity of life, of spirit continuing on. But I feel that the soul has many spirits within itself. And so here's the soul is kind of experiencing itself through the life it's created, as source is experiencing itself through the life that the source created, which was the soul. So going back to that, I feel that how we were created is to have 3 levels of conscious awareness. First, we have our unconscious self, where our soul is actually embedded in the ego center, the lower chakras, the part of ourselves that once we are born, we learn all of the stuff, how to stay alive, how to survive in life, how to thrive in life. And in that is our talents, our desires, or what are we going to do? What do I want to do? Who am I? Our soul resonates there and kind of directs, in a sense, our talents, or kind of sparks a desire, or we are in whether we are conscious or not of it, we are in alignment with our soul in a lot of different ways. We can't sell our soul, but we can abandon our spiritual part, and we can abandon our soul. However, our soul keeps on ticking within ourselves. We have also in the heart chakra is our aware self. And this is the bridge between our unconscious self and our soul higher self. And this is where our spirit, our personality really thrives. And our aware self is where we make our choices. The soul needs to experience itself through our human life. And our human life needs to be nourished by the soul. our soul doesn't abandon us. We're all together. We're all blended together. Although in our energy of choice, we can abandon our own spirituality or our own source of where we've come from. So our soul has also embedded itself into the top 2 chakras above our heads. It's also our guardian angel has our soul plan or has a soul source to also help us guide us on our way if we choose to ask for that guidance, if we choose to be there with the soul. So we have a huge team in spirit that help us as well as our soul. But our soul wants to experience certain things. So it's not quite neutral as maybe the helpers are. So I'm kind of making it into an allegory. The soul wants to know how we're feeling. Our soul wants to experience how we are experiencing life. And the challenge is for us to be happy. Our happiness is part of our soul's plan, but our balance and our ability to be creative, our ability to create, our ability to overcome challenges is all part of the soul's journey. So the soul wants to learn and grow as much as Source or God wanted to learn and grow through the presence of the soul. So it's all, we're all one. We're all embedded. Like I think of it as nesting dolls, all inside of each other. And what the littlest one experiences is what the biggest one experiences, and it's all levels are important. And I wanted to, as I talk about the soul level, you think of it as a tree, and the unconscious level is the roots of the tree, and the aware self is the trunk of the tree, and the soul part is the expression of the higher self, which is are the leaves and the branches of the tree. And it's very difficult for the tree to exist if it's missing its bottom, middle, and its leaves. A tree can exist without the branches. We can do life without our soul, awareness of our soul, but our creativity will always pop up somewhere. And it's very difficult for a tree to exist without the trunk, without the awareness of self, without the creativity and the compassion. We are created from love and we're returning to love. So the energy from the soul into our spirit is the energy of love and compassion and nurturing and living. We return back to our soul, we return back to love once our life is completed, and our soul is very hungry to know what we've learned and how we've experienced our lives. And it's very hungry for a homecoming, for us to go back to the soul to say, this is what I did, and you gave me too much of a challenge. In between lifetimes, there's a lot of work that's been done exploring what happens when we don't have our life. And I feel that the soul and the new spirit to become, or the new personality for the human, are all there planning together of what are you going to be challenged with, what is going to bring you joy, where are your soul appointments, where you're going to be redirected. If you go off too far, you're going to get redirected. And those redirects can be very challenging, or they can be very charming and lovely. And then and what is it that we're going to want to do? What are our talents? What is our drive? So I feel that the soul is the higher part of our existence, and our soul is the closest connection to source that we have. And choosing to live in alignment with our soul is the best thing that we can do for ourselves. On the other hand, choosing to live exactly how we feel in any given moment is perfectly fine too, because our soul doesn't abandon us. We can abandon our own spirituality and our own sense of ourselves in a heartbeat. But coming back home to soul, coming back home to that energy of source is always, always a wonderful, beautiful thing to do. And living from your soul power is also very empowering and a very beautiful way to live your life. So that's my talk on soul. I could go on and on.
Thank you, Nancy.
We're going to be having questions for everybody at the end. I mean, so, and we'll give everybody a chance to do a wrap-up statement, but we'll keep moving. we give everybody up to 10 minutes to kind of introduce the topic, knowing that questions will be asked, and it's not unusual. It wasn't last month, at least, for us to actually ding off of each other and have conversations where we as the panel are forwarding the conversation with each other, and the audience just gets to look and eat popcorn as they're answering questions. So next, we're going to have Ashley Olstein. Ashley, come on up and set us straight. What is soul?
What is soul? Thank you. And I loved listening to Ginger and Nancy go first, because I agree with so many of the points that you've made, and it's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But I also, it gives me some places to really think about. I mean, I think compared to the panel here today, I'm a little bit newer to being aware of this part of my consciousness. It's always been there. Obviously it is for all of us, but to be heightened and tuned into it is a newer thing for me in the past, 5, 6, 7 years. So it's, what is a soul is something that I actually bat around a lot. I really like to think about what part of me is the soul? How does it integrate with my human self? How does it integrate with my higher self and my spirit? And what's the difference? And kind of braiding that all together. And I don't have those answers. I'm still puzzling it out. But what I feel like the points that Ginger and Nancy were making that I agree with is I believe in reincarnation, and that your soul is the constant. It is like the light of us that comes back again and again. And the human form may change, but that spirit and essence of each of us is what repeats through. I also, used to think that there was actually a timeline where there was a past life that was ago and a future life that is to happen. And I'm now feeling this shift that they're concurrent, that our soul is experiencing all of these slices of, I don't even want to say human, because it doesn't even have to be human. It can be animal. It can be, I'm going to get all weird. It can be from another universe. It doesn't have to be even from this universe, that they're happening concurrently, and collecting information, data, experiences that our soul has set out to experience. And the one thing that Ginger, you hit on it, was the collective soul versus like our individual soul. Because I believe that fully, that there's a collective. We're learning, experiencing, healing, and helping for the collective, but at the same time, we're doing it individually. So, I feel like can almost see that, and then it's like vapor, it's just gone. So, I'm trying to understand it and feel it and live it, and as soon as I try to like touch it, it's gone. So, but it is something that I feel those are happening at the same time. I totally agree with soul contracts and Akashic records, and we have a plan when we become human, when we're born into the earth. There's something that we're setting out to accomplish, and maybe we messed it up last time around, or over there, which is because it's not a go, it's now. But maybe we're messing it up over there, and we want an opportunity to do it a different way, or to feel a different way, or maybe experience, it's like Groundhog Day, actually, experience a relationship with someone in your soul family in a different way. So I really strongly believe in all of that. The one thing that well, a couple of things. I like you guys, I could go on and on and on, and it's like, which thread do I want to pick up and like chase down, because there's so many. The biggest thing that I'm feeling lately is a goal as a human is to step yourself more into the flow, more into the universal flow. we do all have free will. And I almost picture it like chutes and ladders. You know, there's a start and there's a finish, and there's a more direct way, and then there's a windy way. And there, you know, I'm oversimplifying it, but picture all kinds of different ways. So each decision that you make can be a more direct route and easier, or it can be a more experiential route where you're really moving around and having different things. Bottom line is you're trying to get to that finish line, which is, you know, it's not, oh, wow, I finished, I'm at the end, but it's more about the knowledge, the experience, whatever that is that you set out to do. And it's how you're going to get there. So with that, what I'm stepping into, and I'm trying to really integrate this into the work that I do with other people and with, you know, spiritual assessments and soul readings and the psychic mediumship, but more about like allowing yourself to be in the flow, the universal flow, and try to listen to those nudges that are guiding you. I mean, you can take a left and your, you know, team, your universe, your soul is saying, well, you really should just stick to the right. You can still go left, and this experience is going to happen for you. But if you take that right, which you've been strongly urged to do by these nudges and nuances, so I say strongly urged, but they're really quite subtle. You know, there might be a nugget there for you to pick up, and it may move things along faster for that universal flow. And another thing that looking into and really examining your soul is, we're all soul beings in a human form. We're not humans having a spiritual experience, which, you know, this is a common expression, but we are spirits having a human experience. So with that, if you really can step into it, it's very liberating to being to your human form. It's very liberating in that you know, some of this other stuff just doesn't matter. What really matters is the you, the light of you, the internal part of your love and light. And all of this stuff is really just a vehicle to help us accomplish all of that. It's way oversimplifying, but it does give this this essence of liberation. If you can kind of peel that away and not get so hung up, and I'm looking in the mirror as I'm saying this, but get so hung up on the physical human part, the human experience, and really just kind of be in the flow. One of the things that was posed on the question of the day today was, how can I feel my soul? Like, how could one tune into their own soul? So I wanted to touch on that a little bit and just talk about each one of us having that ability. It's right there for us. It's not as far away as we think it is. You know, a lot of times people think that, oh, well, I have to be, you know, gifted with psychic abilities to be able to tune into my soul, or I have to be this, that, or learn this. And really, it's not that complicated. It's very simple in the way that you can train yourself to get quiet, listen to the beat of your heart, you know, really just try to go into that space inside of you. I always think about it as like kind of traveling into your heart space rather than being here. Really put yourself into that heart space. Ginger, I think it was you that said that you feel your soul in your heart. And I think I have to deliberately put it there. I feel like it's around me. Otherwise, I'm very heady. I'm always thinking. So I have to really like push this into my heart, my soul, and feel it. And then, you know, especially if I'm in my head and super thinky, I have to put that off to the side and know that it will be there when I want to pick it up, and just feel myself, feel that light, which is love. I think of love and light as the same thing. Like, that's what we're all made of, and that's what we're trying to get home to. That's That's the goal. And when you can really just feel it, even if it's for a split second, it's, and I just got chills talking about it. It's like going home it's like a little vacation, but you get to go home for a minute. It's really just a lovely feeling, and we all can touch it. And it's closer than we think. Is that my time? My screen just shifted, so I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you, Ashley. We're going to let everybody do a wind up, a last message to our audience at the end. And so now you guys, you get to hear from me. And, I must feel like everybody has said everything. So maybe I'll have nothing new to say, or maybe I'll have to say it in a different way that will resonate to you in a different way. Because one of the reasons we like to do these panels is for the fact that some people hear something when it's said one way, other people, it makes sense when it's said a different way. So I want to start here with this idea, this concept of soul. And one of the things I'm going to do right off the bat is I'm actually putting into the meeting with everybody a link, and it is a link to my book called Experiment Earth: Journey Back to the Beginning. And it's a book I wrote back in 1995 that has lots of channeled information, including the birth of soul. What is a soul? Where did it come from? And things like this. And so I'd like to start this by saying, first of all, that I look at souls as cells in the body of God. Now, when I say God, it could be God, Goddess, LA, Buddha, Great Spirit, Universe, Great Pumpkin, I don't care what you call it, but it is something larger than ourselves. And we have this being that existed, but not in physical form. And, in the book, Experiment Earth, we talk about that one of the ways that people got created was for God to take, and again, I'm just using the term God, use whatever one works for you, wanted to have the experience of form. God wanted to have the experience of form. We, as cells in the body of God, we evolve, and in our evolving, we evolve God. As we become more, God becomes more, because we give God the experiences that God wanted to have by having form. If you are God, there is no death. But if you put a soul in a form that can die, God then gets the experience of death. And God does not have the same kind of like lust or love or hunger or thirst or all of these sensates. And so when I look at what a soul is, again, it's a cell in the body of God, and it's a cell that was sent to experience things. Ginger may in this lifetime be a cell in God's heart. That's where she feels the soul. Ashley may be a cell in God's brain because she says it's all up here. Nancy may be a cell in God's right eye, for her clear perspective. I know in this lifetime, I am a cell in God's butt cheek, because I came in this lifetime to be a pain in the ass to people, to push them to be their best selves. So I figured this lifetime, that's where my cell is hanging out. But as a cell in a body of God, you both are God, but not all of God. And this is where man has always got in trouble. As soon as man recognizes this divine part of themselves where God is alive and well and living experiences that can only be lived by being in form, when that happens, then man consistently makes the mistake of thinking, well, then I'm God. Then that man wants to be everybody else's God or tell everybody else what God is. But it's only seeing God from its perspective. And, so a lot of times man makes that mistake of saying, oh, I'm God. So let me tell you, now you need to be what my God tells you. Well, your God never told you to tell other people who they were meant to be. It's about who you came in to be and have those experiences to evolve and grow throughout lifetimes. And to have the experience of being murdered and being the murderer, of being abundantly wealthy to the point that it's obscene and you are wasteful. Well, in another lifetime, you may be starving. And look at people who have so much and don't have the time of day for you because you are somehow lesser. In each of those journeys, we come in. And I often talk about what is the vision and mission statement for your soul in this lifetime. What is the vision and mission statement? As some of you may or may not know, I do a lot of work also with businesses. And a lot of my early degrees were in business, and I spent time in corporate America. And even though I've been doing my work for 33 years now, full time, I consider business part of my work. And when people in business come and say, they want help, the first thing I do is, what is the vision and mission statement of your soul? And does it align with your business? Because if the business is serving the vision and mission statement of your soul, it cannot fail. If you are in alignment with the vision and mission statement of your soul, you will have experiences. You will perceive some of those experiences as experiences you won't want to repeat. And if you learn from them, guess what? You won't repeat them. If you don't learn from them, well, batter up. You'll have some version of the experience again, because your soul came in to learn something from that experience. It came in to grow from that experience. It came in to be more. The soul is always about becoming more. And, this is a place talking about soul. I also like to talk about this very black and white, narrow mind of this obsession we have with single God religions. And we make fun of the pantheon of gods, and we make fun of this. But what I want you to remember is those ways and those pathways of evolving God is recognizing that there is God also in the trees. So why would there not be a tree God? It's just a face of God that is about trees. And why would there not be a sky God? Because is God not part of the sky? And so we want to kind of make God in our image. And that's where we make a problem. We try to make God in our image. God didn't make us in God's image, because God has a limitless number of images, of ways of being. And so when we talk about soul, we talk about our divine journey. And as everyone has said on the panel today, we have free will. We have free will. We have the ability to make bad choices. And one of the things that I have multiple times in my practice had to work with somebody whose soul contracts and the soul things that the soul wanted to do in a lifetime foobarred before they were even born. They foobarred. That they had a soul contract to be married, to be born of this couple with this genetic makeup, with this access to environment and lifestyle and whatever. Like, it was all lined up. And then one of those two people made a mistake, and that ability, I specifically think of one client where one of them made a bad choice and got killed before they could impregnate the other one. So now the soul's running around to the last minute saying, I really need to be here at this time in the earth. I've got things to do. And it's going through this web of souls it has going, can somebody fit me in your family? Can I show up? Can I, what can we do? And they get born in another family. And those oftentimes are people who feel like, I never had a connection with my family. My family didn't feel like my family. Sometimes they just felt like my caretaker to get me to 18. And I moved to another part of the world. And I loved them in some abstract way, but I never felt part of them. Well, that's because you kind of came in as a, you know, as a loner, like a loaner car. Like, can I kind of like borrow your womb? Would you lend me a little sperm? Can I, because I need to come through. I need to have a form. And it's not the form that my mission and vision statement of my soul necessarily wanted me to have. And you're not necessarily going to give me the experience. So the FUBAR can start even before you're born. And then it can happen when other people drop out of contracts and things like this. I think this has been covered by many of you. I've been talking to Blue Streak, and I'm just about probably going to be out of time. But I just wanted to talk to each of you. And I also wanted to say that it's very important that that which I see created all of this race, this earth, all of these things also created all of the stuff that's out there in this universe. There is a this universe, and our soul doesn't always have to decide to incarnate in a human form. And I have many experiences working with clients who have bopped between having a lifetime as in an alien race on another planet with their soul and then coming back here. And then that changes the game as well. My time is up. I hope that in my time, I have managed to bring up one or two maybe different ways of seeing or thinking of things. It's pretty hard with this panel because I almost covered everything. So by going last, I really had to work harder. I hope I have lived up to that. And again, I have my book, Experiment Earth, Journey Back to the Beginning, which has a lot of general messages about soul and things like that. I know that Nancy referred earlier to her book, Divine Love Affair, An Akashic Journey. And I am going to now put that also in the place that people can click on a link if they're interested to look at that book and maybe get it. And if either one of my other people on the panel have anything, you know, that people could go look at or around this topic, please feel free to share it. But I know Nancy mentioned her book, and obviously I have a book, so we wanted to make sure that with this topic you had that access. So I'm going to turn it over to questions. Again, remember, we are recording this. If you don't want to be on the recording, because we will be sharing it with people who signed up but couldn't attend, or if you came in halfway through, we can send you a link so you can watch the first half because we did record it. You can type your messages, your questions, and we can read your questions out loud. We're going to give you a couple of minutes. And I don't see any questions on the screen yet, but I'm going to check in with Mindy because when I'm talking, I sometimes miss things. Mindy, do you have any questions yet?
I'm just, hold tight 1 second. Miss Robin has a question. You can unmute yourself, Miss Robin. And then I do have one more question after that.
Oh, good. Hi, everyone. Thank you. So I came in kind of late, so maybe this was already talked about or explained, but I was kind of wondering if someone could explain more what the Akashic record is, because I'm not that sure.
Okay. That's a Ginger or Nancy question. They both do Akashic record stuff. So since they actively do it as part of their practice, Ginger, Nancy, which one of you would like to answer?
I think Nancy should. Nancy teaches. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ginger. The Akashic records, Akashic is a Sanskrit word for source, for energy of source, and the Akashic source that I call God source is an indelible energy that collects everything that's ever been created since inception of time, and that is a library called the Akashic Records. So when we go to the Akasha or go to source and want to know something, it's a lot of information, and we go in with intent, and we can work with the beings of the records, and they can give us the information that we need or want, depending on if it's appropriate or not. So Akasha is basically source energy. Does that sit with you, Robin? Does that make sense? Okay.
Did anybody else want to weigh in? I'm not trying to limit anybody who may have an opinion on it or have some insight. If not, we'll move to the next question. Okay, so for my panel, just wave your hand on your screen if you want to weigh in on something. And Mindy, what's our next question?
So the next question has to do with free will and whether or not that's an option or if it's compatible with how we understand the working of the world.
So I'm going to give an answer, and then Nancy would like to speak afterwards. I think you raised your hand, right, Nancy?
Yep.
Is anybody else? And Ginger is going to weigh in. So I'm going to just start. So we're given free will because we need to be in the experience, and sometimes making the wrong choice is just another lesson, or every time making quote unquote the wrong choice. The wrong choice being the choice that is furthest away from the alignment of what your soul came to do. And I want to make this very clear. Sometimes a right choice can be stunningly shocking to us in a human experience, and we want to think of it as a wrong choice, but it's a right choice. And the example I give of that is suicide. I have talked to enough souls that have committed suicide for the ones who it was a right choice because that was the experience they came in with. They came in with the experience that they were going to end their life with what would look like to everybody around them as prematurely and at their own hands, or even, but in doing that, they have contracts with all of those people of teaching them the life lesson of having somebody you love commit suicide. And they came in to do it. And that was the right choice. Then there are people that make the wrong choice to commit suicide. And they end up somewhere else. And I'm not saying heaven or hell, that's our next month's conversation, but they end up having to, there are consequences for that choice because it wasn't the choice that was in alignment. And when they ended their life early and it wasn't part of their soul contract, they would actually break all sorts of contracts they had. Contracts like souls that they agreed to bring in or parent, or relationships they agreed to have, roles, and all of those things that suddenly it's like this aftershock after the earthquake. And that then is followed by a tsunami, because every contract that soul suddenly negated on, the other souls that they had the contract with have to make the decision on a soul level how important it was. They're scrambling around. Are there other ways they can make that contract happen? How do they make the experiences they came in? What does it do to them? Where the person who came in and their soul contract was to commit suicide, they commit suicide. And that was their last contract. They didn't have a bunch of missed contracts in the future because they had no future. That was what they came in to do. So I'm using that as an example to kind of understand free will choice. But again, free will choice creates a diversity of experiences we have, which still, when actually processed, integrated, and worked with, still do the soul's mission of growth and evolution and moving forward. Nancy, I saw your hand first, so I'm going to let you weigh in, and then after that, I'm going to see what Ginger weighs in.
So I wanted to see what Carlton said. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to pile in here. Carlton said, right or wrong, it isn't the issue. The point was that there is no such thing as free will. The notion is more than an illusion. It feels like we have something called free will, but the idea being to make free will choice doesn't exist. Well, I don't agree with that, and this is why. Our soul created us. We were created for learning and growing on the soul level and also on the source level. And as much as free will looks like chaos, free will is an important place for growth and learning. So it's a desire to want to organize things and not have them be chaotic, but the process of learning and growing only comes when we have the freedom to make the choice. And I'm reminded of my 2-year-old, my son, when he was 2 years old, and we were outside, and I said to him, "Don't do this. You're going to be in a lot of trouble if you do this," because whatever it was, I think we were in a big mud puddle, and I had just cleaned him up, and I really didn't want to clean him up again. And I said, "You have a choice. You can go in that mud puddle and do it again, but there will be consequences." And as a 2-year-old, he needed to learn what that meant. And he also needed to test his mother because that was part of his growing and learning. And so being a mother and also watching and being also a mentor of people who are learning and growing, I'm constantly seeing people making choices outside of their well-being and making choices outside of their soul's path. And that is what brings them back to their soul's path and brings them back to with wisdom, with grace, with experience. And the soul desires that. And that's why free choice is an important part of the creation process.
Ginger, I'm going to let you weigh in.
I think Nancy covered pretty much what I was going to say. I mean, I think without free choice, the soul doesn't have that ability to learn. But I will tell you a couple of things that I have read that made sense to me is that sometimes people choose things in a life to sort of, let's say, to take the easy way out. And the reason sometimes is that I think this might have been Nancy also, that, you know, the part of us remains up in the collective, our soul, and then we come into a lifetime. And I have heard of people who have not taken enough of themselves into this lifetime to be able to have the strength, the resiliency, the whatever, with whatever they chose. So let's say they chose something that was traumatic, which most of us have trauma in our life, or addiction, or, you know, vision, anything. But if you don't have enough of you, the essence of you, to come in to have done that, then maybe you make a free will choice. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk away, or I'm going to make a choice that takes me out of it because I can't do it. And so I without free choice, I just don't think there is any learning.
So Ashley would like to speak now. Go ahead, Ashley.
Hi. First of all, Carlton, what's on your shirt? It's okay if you disagree with me. I can't force you to be right. Love it. Okay. I believe there's free will, but I'm going to just take this outside view of it. And it's kind of like, does it even matter? So we may feel like we have free will, but maybe the choice that we're making was predetermined. And, you know, the human is duped into saying, well, I'm choosing this, but really the plan all along was this. But when it all comes down to it, the experience is what matters, not so much, you know, where did that decision come from? That's actually how I feel about it. When I take a step outside, I very much am holding on to the idea that I have free will, and that makes me feel more comfortable in my human form. So to me, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but difficult to express and talk about it by typing. Understood. But it's a good, cheers. It's a good view to look at. You know, you can look at it from both sides, and it makes an interesting thinking point.
I have a thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashley. So I do want to address, you know, that he had added the idea of free will is contrary to the law of physics. We live in a deterministic universe, which is what prevents the idea of free will. And the very first thing I want to add to what I said, because obviously I went down a different road with the initial question, so to speak, is I 1000 support that is the reality you need in this lifetime. I get it. And I always say to people, you come in by being you and your soul evolving, and there are certain places where we will never find agreement or what we believe resonates to each other, because that's the part of the diversity that creates the environment that souls need to evolve in. And I'm never going to convince you of something that you don't want to be convinced. I give you my perspective. And, you know, when we choose these panels, obviously, and I saw your, you know, you wish you had been on the panel. You know, at New Hampshire Metaphysical, we promote these as for the spiritually curious. And so we don't invite scientists on the panel. And it's, you know, for people that are actually part of our community, an active part of our community, which is why we also leave plenty of time for people who come to ask questions and to share their view. And your view is perfectly valid. My experience is I have talked to people who have made bad free will choices on a soul spiritual level that are on the other side. And they're sitting there and there are consequences because they made a bad free will choice. And it's very clear to me. I have worked with clients where I see where bad free will choices have taken them off their soul's vision and mission. And that experience and the information from that experience have helped them to make corrections in their life that has put their life back on a track where they feel better with who they are and what they're here to do in a lifetime, and feel like they're back where they need to be. That's my experience. That experience may never resonate to you as a spiritual interactive panel. If somebody's God is the law of physics, God love you, have the law of physics be your God. Ours, you know, I base it on my personal experience with my clients and the things that we do and the things that I have experienced with them. And that's the great thing about these. Nobody's wrong. And we're never trying to make you feel wrong. We're sharing our perspectives. One of the things I'm going to do is I see you typing and I know it's difficult for you to express. I'm going to move on to our next question. We're going to start discussing that, and then that question, and then we can always come back. So go ahead, Mindy.
I was just gonna say Kat was up next if Kat wants to unmute.
Or if we can just read it, right? She typed her question.
Nope. But hey, so mine is to just give I'd love to hear the panel's reactions to one of my favorite quotes about the soul from Marcus Aurelius. You are a little soul carrying around a corpse. Would love to hear reactions to that from the panel. Thank you.
Who would like to have a reaction or a response? We prefer not have reactions. Ashley, I saw your hand first. What is your response?
I resonate with that very much. I feel like, in fact, sometimes I even refer to the human body as like your meat car or your meat suit. I mean, we're carrying that around for our soul. So I think that's oversimplifying it, but I do resonate with it, and I like the quote. So thank you for sharing it.
Nancy, did I see you raise your hand?
Yes, I it's funny, I refer to the human body as biological artificial intelligence, where the body has its own intelligence and it has its experience of being alive and keeping us alive in the world that we're living in, wherever that world is. So if I refer to my body as a corpse, then I am cutting off the experience of being human. And the experience of being human is part of the soul's growth. And if we always want to cut off the thing that bugs us the most, like let's cut out the ego and let's get rid of the right arm and this hangnail is killing me. but each one of those things is giving us a tool to use for some reason. And so if we refer to the body as a corpse, then we're going to feel dead on our feet. But if we refer to the body as an intelligence of its own that has a timeout mechanism, then we're going to have a little more interesting of a journey.
So Ginger, I didn't see your hand up. So I think it's interesting. Obviously, our panel is a little split on this quote, which is great because I think it makes for more interesting conversations. You know, I'm of two minds here. And one of it is that I think that there are people who have a lifetime with the body they travel in, they make a corpse. I find that to be sad because I do think that where there is a wisdom, and some of the work I've done has been involved with both cellular and cellular memories and the things that come down from our soul from lifetime to lifetime. But when we plug in and make a choice to be born of a family, we are making a choice to be born with that genetic DNA information and knowledge that travels. And, you know, I think back to this resurgence of claiming the empowerment of the indigenous, and that when you choose to be born into one of those lines where indigenous was under assault for hundreds or thousands of years and was tried to be homogenized and pasteurized into you know, the patriarchal, you know, toxic Christian idea, white supremacist, that many indigenous, you know, tribes, people, races, were forced as much as they could be to give up, that in their indigenous spirituality and culture and way of being stays alive through the passing of the DNA. And when a soul chooses to go into that indigenous line, especially at this time in human evolution, where we're fighting back the concept that we should all be homogenized and pasteurized, you know, at the knee of the two major children of Abraham, so to speak, which is a lot of it, not exclusively, then I feel like, you know, that it's showing that the body is more than a corpse, that there is a communication line that comes through. But definitely there are people that live a lifetime as a zombie. You know, they may be alive, but they're dead. And the amount of information we get through sensory is a powerful thing that supports our intellect, our intuitive, our emotions, that our life experience explodes into brilliant complexity and color through the sensory, and the sensory comes through the physical. And when you say the word corpse, there is no acknowledgement. Now, again, it's Marcus Aurelius, so we're talking BC, and his definition of the word corpse may be very different than ours is in 2023. I would have to go in and look and say, what definition did the people of his day have, that when he used that word, what did that mean? Was it truly a dead body? Or is that just a modern interpretation that might not be appropriate? I don't know. I've not done that research. So that's kind of my way in it. We ask about how a soul contract is made. Anybody want to raise their hand on weighing in on that? How a soul contract is made? Nancy? Oh, and Ginger? Okay.
Soul contract, how is it made? Lots of different ways. As many ways as you could possibly think of. The soul contract is an agreement on a soul level that it's usually not, in my opinion, not part of a soul's plan. It's a soul level belief system or agreement that can come in from past lives. It can come in from family, like you said, the DNA. It can come in from family ancestral beliefs that say you have a belief around alcoholism, or a structure around codependence, or a most easiest one to describe is you've taken a vow of poverty in a past life because you're a priest or nun or something, and then in this lifetime you can't make it. You can't make any money. It's impossible to make money. There is a soul level contract that's been carried on from lifetime to lifetime, and they can be cleared, and they can be reassessed, or you can renegotiate them. Anytime that we come to a contract that we have cleared up in this lifetime and we're just rolling it on like a hamster wheel, it will keep going on the same thought process as we can say, hey, I paid that one up, I'm done with it. The other thing is, I feel like sometimes soul contracts, this is what I should do, get confused with soul purpose. And that's how I approach the soul contract. Is it still valid? Is this helping you to learn and grow? And what is this concept about in your life?
Ginger, what would you like to add to that?
Well, some of the same. When I'm doing Akashic record work, that's what I do, find those sort of blocks with people that may have come in from past life and past belief. But what I wanted to mention too is that when I'm doing animal communication work, I hear that a lot from animals, that there is a soul contract to come in to work with a particular person or a particular family or whatever the case is, to help that person evolve. And obviously they're only in our life for a shorter amount of time, but those are the words that I've heard from animals.
Okay. I don't think that I think I don't necessarily need to add anything about soul contracts. I mean, the souls make them before they're born, and then they renegotiate them as they go on. And you can be in the middle of a life and your soul is contracting something new. I've always found it interesting, the energetic difference between a couple that decided to have soul contract to 2 kids and then suddenly popped out a third one. Was it a free will choice, or was it a last minute soul contract? And you know, it's very fascinating just looking at that. I always see it like this huge tapestry, like would be on a Middle Ages castle wall that went on for, you know, like forever. And this tapestry, and you see where all of the strings and what the tapestry looked like when the soul came in. And then when the soul leaves, you look at it and you go, oh, Picasso. Because it looks so different. Do souls travel interdimensionally? I personally have seen souls or the essence of someone walk into a different dimension. Who on my panel would like to throw down on this question? And anybody, and if anybody has a throwdown that's also just attending, feel free to speak up. Let us know. I mean, I always want to give my panel a chance to weigh in, but we're not claiming to have all of the wisdom in the universe. So if there's somebody that's watching that wants to weigh in on something, feel free to do so. Just kind of raise your hand and let us know. Who wants to address? Okay. So I'm not getting a big hand from any of my panel. I did get a hand from Raina, who is going to be on a couple of our future panels. Raina, you want to weigh in on, do souls travel interdimensionally?
Yeah, sure. As the questions presented, you know, I'm a mystic, really, and you know, a lot of that is through direct and esoteric experience. And so like I have personal experience of traveling sort of interdimensionally, you know, through the consciousness. You know, I remember just having a thought as a soul in this time and space, I don't know, it was like a decade ago, and I was just like, I wonder what I would be doing if I were in another parallel universe. And then I just tilted my head a little bit, and a window opened up, and I saw a version of myself jogging down the street which is something I wouldn't be doing. And then it's like we both saw each other and had a startled moment, and then the connection broke. But you know, part of my path is also shamanic initiation, and this is a path that will be a lot about deconstructing, you know, identifying with any sort of rigid structures in order to just expand and evolve consciousness just ecstatically, you know, wisdom. So, you know, we could be traveling in the dream time, which is beyond, you know, this tangible place, you know, the mundane world. We can expand our awareness, and however we command our attention with intention, we can be the creators that we are as souls through our body, which I also include as part of our soul. It's not like this appendage where it's, you know, the vibrational creational essence is condensed into our physical beings too. Like everything in creation is an expression of, you know, essence and God or soul, reaching from here all the way up to a great source. And anyway, you know, like my view is consciousness does not stem from the mind. Consciousness is creating our mind, which is also creating consciousness moving forward too. And so we can command our attention and develop our sort of second attention, is one way of putting it, in order to see beyond the mundane sort of ordinary reality and see what meaning out there, and what possibilities there are to being a creator and a creative force in life. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you. Again, that's Raina Wilson. She'll be here on 10/8 on Do Heaven and Hell Exist, and 11/12 on Have We Lived Before, Will We Live Again? I know we're wrapping this up and our panel have to move on with their day. I wanted to make one last comment, which is about the whole interdimensional thing and stuff. Is soul, to me, if we look at it in the three forms, you know, that we look at us, we look at soul as steam, and steam can basically go anywhere. And then we have consciousness, which is flow, like water, which can flow freely, but does have riverbanks. And then we have the body it's in, like a block of ice. So that's how I think about it. So can the soul travel interdimensionally? Absolutely, because it's steam and it can go everywhere. Can the block of ice? Yeah, not so much. But can the steam come back and flow what it learned into the water? And can the water then flow it into the ice? Absolutely. So that's just how I'd like to say that. My panel, do you have any last closing thoughts before we close this down? Nancy, I'll start with you.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, walking our lives without soul is like, it's like having a corpse. But bringing our there's a lot of different ways we can connect to our higher self and integrate it. We talk about ascension a lot, and integrating your life with your soul is the ascension process. Let's bring it back home. The soul is our essence, and it's what nurtures us, and it's what brings meaning into what we're doing and purpose.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We will see Nancy joining us again on 12/10 on What is the Truth About Angels. She's also one of my co-playmates on Playdate with Spirit, which is September 23rd, as is Raina Wilson. And she will be at the in-person Nashua Fair, as well as available online for readings the fair weekend. Ginger, you're up. Do you have any closing thoughts or comments you'd like to share?
I wanted to say thank you. That I love doing the panel, and this was really a great topic. I did want to say one last thing about the soul, and I think I said it initially, but I wish that people could understand how powerful their own soul is. And I think if you can tap into your soul, and there's all different ways to do that, as some of the other panelists have said, and really understand down deep who you are, when you're living in alignment, there's a huge power in that. And I hope that people learn how to do that, how to tap into their higher self, how to tap into themselves.
Thank you. And if you didn't catch last month, Psychic or Psychotic, Ginger was on our panel there. But you can reach out to us at New Hampshire Metaphysical, and we will give you access to that video. Ashley, tell us what book is coming up in your book club. Any closing comments that you have?
So for book club, I put it in the chat. It is the you put me on the spot, Dr. Kevin, The Art of Living by, and I'm going to try and pronounce, Thich Nhat Hanh. I put an Amazon link in the chat. The book club is on Tuesday. I had the date already before. Tuesday, the 26th of September from 7 to 8:30 Eastern time. The sign up is through New Hampshire Metaphysical. If you look at their calendar and click on it, it brings you to the sign up link. Anyone is welcome to come. You don't even have to finish the book. Frankly, you don't even have to read it, as long as you don't mind spoilers, and you can listen and chime in or whatever. It's been a really fun group. So, and then to close, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to this. This has been great. And I love hearing all of the different perspectives. Like, I jumped in about the whole corpse thing, but then listening to everyone talk, I'm like, well, you're right. I feel that way too. So it was really a lovely sharing of thoughts. And I agree about the soul being, I mean, it's everything. It is the essence of who we are. So tapping into it is, I think, it's kind of our right and our goal. So thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Ashley will also be at the Nashua Fair in person, and be available for readings that weekend. And you can contact Ashley through New Hampshire Metaphysical, as you can all of our panelists, and come see us at the fair in person if you want to sit down, or reach out to us, know more about the message circle. You will run across some of the same people. And Ashley will be with us on Have We Lived Before and Will We Live Again on 11/12. So she'll be on that panel as well. Got soul? Yeah. Do you need to know you got soul to get through a lifetime? Nope. Maybe in this lifetime, soul ain't your thing. Who knows? Maybe you're lactose intolerant when it comes to soul. And that's okay. It doesn't make your journey any less valid. It means your journey was to have a God of a law of physics. That's okay. It's all okay. All we've done is invite you to expand your realities, to consider things from different perspectives, and invite you to take those things that resonate and add them to your own unique spiritual journey. Again, join us at newhampshiremetaphysical.com or New Hampshire Metaphysical Facebook page. Next month is 10/8, Do Heaven and Hell Exist, with Raina Wilson, Lori Powers Otto, and Reverend Robert Menard, and myself as your host, Kevin Ross Emery, Inspirational Catalyst. And you again will find all of us on New Hampshire Metaphysical. We thank you so much for coming. We thank you for your questions. And we're going to go ahead and invite everybody except for the practitioners to hop off. I'd like to have a minute with them if that's okay.